We're going to get started. We're really excited about today's programming to share with every single one of you in our third Afro Latinidad series with Latino Lead. Again, welcome everyone. If this is your first time, we're really excited to have you. We have an amazing group of talented artists and Latinos in this program. And first and foremost, I want to welcome you. My name is Irma Marquez Trapero, and I'm the Executive Director of Latino Lead. We are a network of leaders created to empower the Minnesota Latinx community to have a greater social impact through collaboration, power building, and leadership development. Thank you so much again for being part of our continual work when it comes to Afro Latinidad. And a reminder that this event will be recorded. We will share it for folks that were not able to be here after the event. So please know to mute yourselves, but also to put your name on the chat. Let us know where you are joining us from so that we can also make some connections within this group. And without further ado, we have a very special performance by Maria Isa. Maria Isa is a national award-winning Puerto Rican singer, songwriter, actress, rapper, activist, and recording artist, born in Minnesota, but obviously with proud roots in Puerto Rico. And she will start us off with some music and also sharing the latest on her Amor Universal album. Maria Isa, kick it off for us.
Saludito, muchas gracias. Voy a empezar primero con una bomba afro-boricua que a llamar a los ancestros y también a aunar la vida de todos los que han perdido su vida entre la violencia con la policía, especialmente a George Floyd, Philando Castillo, Jamar Clark, que son de esta tierra aquí, que nacido aquí en Minnesota. Y es bien importante de honrar nuestros muertos también, que son los ancestros. ¿Cómo duele? Este tema se llama Steve Jobs. So, si estás por teléfono de iPhone, averigua cómo podemos conectar juntos. Le 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 le. Le 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 le. La sangre llama, no lo puedo olvidar. Steve Jobs, took all the jobs, locked up the mob, paid off the cops, poisoned the crops, put us in a box, and we're still dying from pork chops. Steve Jobs, career sabotage, burned down the mosque, set fire to the bots, raise up the cost, gentrified the block and put a Whole Food in the Bronx. The Academy's a rat, the president was black, now the president is whack, yeah, the president is whack. Even though the drug war's all about the poor, can't afford time, poor, can't ignore rap boards. Record labels won't even pay for your tour. Devil wants more, East 94 with my pedal to the floor, thinking about little Bevel Blood Sugar 94. I know they got a cure, but they want to keep it hidden, secrets, I get it, we need it. They at the mall, 30 milligrams of Adderall. Welcome to the Valley of the Dolls. Steve Jobs, took all the jobs, locked up the mob, paid off the cops, poisoned the crops, put us in a box, and we're still dying from pork chops. Steve Jobs, career sabotage, burned down the mosque, set fire to the box, raise up the cost, gentrified the block and put a Whole Food in the Bronx. Step up to the drum, one green cigarette, 3 shots of rum. Some say you're crazy if you speak in tongues, sign of the cross from the nun, but I could be healed by the stars and sun. Said I could be healed by the stars and sun. I could be healed by the stars and sun. Snowden was on the run, and we hope he had a gun, cause when Popo come, they poke a hole in the gun. Puerto Rican rum, put out for big pun. Rubber bum bum, tuku tuku dong dong. Black blunt punch it, hole in your lung. The war's being won by the songs that I sung. War's being won by the songs that I sung. The war's being won by the songs that I sung. Steve Jobs, took all the jobs, locked up the mob, paid off the cops, poisoned the crops, put us in a box, and we're still dying from pork chops. Steve Jobs, career sabotage, burned down the mosque, set fire to the fox, raise up the cost, gentrified the block and put a Whole Food in the Bronx. La sangre llama, no lo puedo olvidar. Historia de los esclavos no se puede olvidar. Que ya de duro trabajamos, tienen que respetar, tienen que respetar, tienen que respetar, tienen que respetar. They gotta respect us. They gotta respect us. Stop throwing us under the bus. Steve Jobs, took all the jobs, locked up the mob, paid off the cops, poisoned the crops, put us in a box, and we're still dying for pork chops. Steve Jobs, career sabotage, burned down the mosque, set fire to the fox, raise up the cost, gentrified the block, and put a Whole Food in the Bronx. Le 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 le, le 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 le. Le 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 le, le 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 le, rumba para gozar, rumba para bailar, rumba para gozar, rumba para bailar. Me enamoré la primera vez que te conocí, amorcito, cómo me hace sentir. Hey, que en esta vida se tiene que vivir feliz. Y eso sin ti no hay, no, eso sin ti no hay. So yo me voy contigo, porque nada más importa cuando estoy contigo. Calentamos la noche candela, me voy contigo. Pa' otro mundo está la luna llena contigo. Me voy contigo, sí, contigo. Voy contigo para Cuba. Voy contigo para Santo Domingo, voy contigo para Panamá, voy contigo para México lindo, voy contigo para Honduras, voy contigo para Guatemala, voy contigo para Argentina, voy contigo para Costa Rica, voy contigo para Venezuela, voy contigo para El Salvador, voy contigo para Colombia, Perú, Chile y Ecuador, Bolivia. Voy contigo para Paraguay, voy contigo para Uruguay, voy contigo a mi Borinquen, en Puerto Rico, el mundo entero. Que yo me voy, yo me voy, yo me voy. Y nada más importa, no. Y yo me voy contigo, mundo entero contigo, la luna llena contigo, sí, contigo, sí, contigo. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, everyone. That was Maria Isa here performing special performance for this event focusing on highlighting Latin Afro-Latinx contributions to our music and culture, and she is a wonderful representation of that. Thank you so much, Maria Isa, for that lovely performance. Can we get some claps, please?
Muchísimas gracias. Un orgullo tener esta conversación bien importante. Y
¡Bravo!
saludo a todos los panelistas que están aquí, los boricuas y todos los latinos que tenemos que representar nuestra bandera en donde quiera.
Thank you, thank you. And Maria Isa will be sticking around, and she will share more information about upcoming events really quick, but we'll get started to the rest of the panel now. We have now our moderator, Fernanda Almeida. She is Univision Minnesota correspondent, actress, and model, and also a paisana from Mexico. We also have Mexico represented here. Fernanda, please do take it away.
Hello, hello. Nice to see you, and a pleasure to be here with you guys discussing such an important theme, which is Afro-Latinidad. And I especially would like to say that my last name is Almeida, so even though that I was born in Mexico, my ascendants are from Portugal. So there's some Afro-Latinidad in me. I would like to start that when it comes to race, ethnicity, origin, and the way people identify themselves, there is always controversy, especially when it comes to American Latinos. Now that the term Afro-Latino, even though it's not a new term, but it has been adopted by many, and its use has become more popular on social media, we need to understand and teach each other what school doesn't teach us, and it's about the African diaspora and its history in Latin America. It is important to address identity and how each person has more than one characteristic that makes them who they are, with which they choose or not to identify at any given time. And since it's a large theme today in Latino Lead, we will focus in just one, which is music, an element that everyone can recognize and celebrate together, and it has a great influence on the identity of Afro-Latinos. Right, guys? So for that, we have our special panelists that are gonna explain to us on a deeper level about the highlights of the Afro-Latins contribution and its influence in our music and culture. One of them is Marisol Chiclana Ayala, and she is an adjunct professor at the St. Catherine University in St. Paul and co-leading cultural context of leadership course in Cuba in 2019. She also is the COVID-19 liaison for the Hispanic Latin community at the Minnesota Department of Health and a consultant on issues related to the equal employment opportunity laws, inclusion, diversity, and cultural competency in the workplace. She holds a BA degree in media writing and communications from the Universidad de Sagrado Corazón de Puerto Rico, a mini MBA from the University of St. Thomas in Minnesota, and a master's degree in leadership, management, and global affairs from the Humphrey Institute, University of Minnesota. In addition, Marisol is a 2006 Archibald Granville Bush Leadership Fellow. And the resume continues. Welcome, Marisol. Thank you for being here with us.
Muchas gracias a ti, Fernanda, y a todos los que están con nosotros en este día. Feliz de estar con ustedes.
And the other expert panelist we have here today is Alberto, or Beto Torrens. He was born in Sanchez, Puerto Rico in October 1971. Beto began his musical career with Batucada Baoba alongside Anthony Carrillo Luis Vélez and his mentor and teacher, Fernando Freddy Diaz. He's a founding member of Bayanga, later became Calle 13, with whom he recorded an album. Torrens has worked with bands and artists like Puya, Cultural Profética, Gomba, Javari, Jerry Medina, Batacumbele, Brazuca, Matraca in Barcelona, Macaco in Barcelona. He's also worked with Ricky Martin, De Las Roots, Tráfico Pesado, Ricky Rodríguez, and La Descarga Urbana de Medina Carrión, among others. Beto recorded in the Grammy-nominated album Urbano by Elvis Crespo and has contributed in recordings with De La Ghetto, Cultura Profética, Plenéalo, Fusión Honda, Monsieur Periné, Colombia, Hurrayba de Riff Raff, New York City, La Tortuga China, Alegría Rampanete, and others. This resume is amazing. Thank you, and such a pleasure for being with you too, Beto Torrens.
Muchas gracias. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here and sharing some insight. I'm very excited too to have been invited by my niece, Camila, who I love so much. Yeah.
Okay, so let's start. What do you think if we start by giving them a little bit of who you are, Beto?
Well, so my name is Beto Torrens. I'm a professional percussionist and educator. I specialize on Afro-American music. So obviously when I speak about America, I'm talking about a continent comprised by over 35 countries. So make America great again? Yeah, I'm down. If we're talking about the continent, you know. So we gotta start on learning stuff and learning and changing the narrative. So the place where you all, or most of you, I think, are living is called the United States of America. It's not called America. America is a continent. An American passport doesn't exist. When you go abroad and you travel, they will ask for a US passport. I will be down for an American passport. That would be amazing, you know, the unity of America or the unity of the Caribbean. That's a dream, you know, as Hostos, Maria de Hostos would say. So yeah, that's pretty much sums it up. So I specialize on music that has Afro-diasporic music, I would say. Especially Afro-Puerto Rican music and Afro-Cuban music are my specialties. But that obviously opens up because like Master Totin Agosto Arara says, los tambores llaman, África es la raíz. So the drums call, Africa is the root. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you so much, Beto. And what about you, Marisol?
So Marisol Chiclana Ayala, I will start by saying in Spanish que yo soy hija de doña Nilda Ayala de Chiclana, madre de Ninchay y de Yajaira, y una negra orgullosa de su raíz, de su isla y de todo lo que representa el ser afrolatina en este contexto. También digo que mi familia es de Humacao, Loíza, y también de Santurce, del barrio obrero, donde los primeros negros esclavos que fueron liberados en Puerto Rico, o los africanos que fueron liberados, se mudaron a ese pueblo de Santurce. Saying in English, my name is Marisol Chiclana, originally from Puerto Rico, Rio Piedras, Puerto Rico, sending my greetings to my mother, Nilda Ayala de Chiclana. I'm a mother of Ninchay and Yajaira. I am also a wife and also a proud negra de la Isla del Encanto. And I salute and really recognize and honor my ancestors, the Taínos, the Africanos that came from many different parts of West Africa and other parts of Africa to the island. And they were not, they didn't come to the island, they were brought to the island, forced to come and work as slaves. And I honor them, and I honor what they represent for me, my family, my community, not only in the island, but also here in Minnesota and the United States mainland. And I also, I have to recognize what we got from our Spaniard ancestry, and that is also culture, but also pain, and all of that came with colonialism and the systemic racism that now we experience today. So I need to recognize all of it, because all of it is the experience that I'm from. And I come here to you grateful for this invitation to share what I think is a shared history of Afro-Latinos in many countries of Latin America and also in the mainland. So I'm with you, I'm part of who we are, and here we are, and we go pa'lante. You know, we keep moving forward with resilience, strength, and a powerful heritage that we will never deny.
And actually, now that you mentioned that, Marisol, I would love to see if Camila could put a presentation from the organization that you are part of, Boriquen, bringing exactly the help and the orientation, resources, and just simply joy to all the people that wants to be part of it.
Yes, before you do the video, Camila, I just want to say that I came from PR from Puerto Rico 26 years ago, and I was doing bomba plena and all of that in Puerto Rico. But then I moved to Minnesota, and I'm grateful for those that started the organization many years ago, Elsa, Mila, Tito, and others. And now it is called Boriquen, and I'm really, really proud of the work that Miguel Rosario, Teresa Perez, Jerry Jerez, and others are doing, families and community, to keep the tradition, our Afro-Boricua, Afro-Puerto Rican, Afro-Latina heritage out. And this is part of what we do. We do share our culture with many others, and we create a platform for our kids and our community to come together, learn about us, and also celebrate the beauty of our culture. So here's Boriquen.
Hi everybody. I'm attempting to share my screen with the video. Un segundito. Okay. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. I'm gonna hit play. And before I continue, can everyone hear the music?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm happy to share, Beto.
That was beautiful.
And other people too. This is what we do in the middle of a winter in Minnesota. We get together, we tell people, let's just get together, let's bring some barriles, and let's play bomba de Puerto Rico together as a community. So Boricuas and non-Boricuas and others from other countries are part of this experience, and we are loving it, and we are grateful for the opportunity to do this as a community.
And also we have to highlight that now with this pandemic, everything has translated to more technology-wise. And if you want to be part of it, where can we log in?
Yes, we have online classes. They're going to start very, very soon. And we're doing other things too, but we do online classes, drumming, art, and we also have conversations about all of these topics that are so critical to who we are. We have Noche de Poesía, Noche de Reflexión, Conversaciones. So we have conversations, poetry, other things that are happening. We are adjusting at this time, but we really want everyone to have a place to go, enjoy, connect, and really be who you are. So everyone is welcome. It's not only for Boricuas, it's for everyone in our community here in Puerto Rico, in other places of Latin America, around the world. Just get together. Our page is I'm going to put the page in the chat so you can all join us.
Yay! Perfecto.
I added the page too. I'm adding all of the media handles and websites of all of our panelists.
Gracias, Camila. You're amazing.
Muchas gracias, Camila. Beto, ¿nos podrías dar, antes de que comencemos con el foro, ¿nos podrías dar una probadita de lo que es Beto Torrens también, por favor? Yo quiero escucharte.
Musicalmente, o bueno, porque yo quería abundar un poquito, yo enseguida quiero hablar,
Yo creo que sí, un poquito del tambor, por favor, 30 segundos, qué sé yo, a ver, así como que vamos a entrar en calorcito a platicar. No escucho, ¿no se escucha? ¿No se escucha? ¿No? ¿Lo sigues dejando? No.
Claro.
Como que quiere y luego se va otra vez el volumen. Perfecto, solo lo esencial. Oye, Beto, ahora que justamente estás tocando los tambores, tengo entendido, corrígeme si no, que es un instrumento... Ay, estoy hablando en español, perdón. Perdón. English, switch. Beto, now that you are actually playing the drums,
yes,
I believe it's one of the key instruments that the roots of Africa has a great influence on our music, on our Latin American music.
Well,
could you explain us
yes.
Why?
When we talk about bomba, I'm gonna start from bomba because I'm Puerto Rican. Maria Isa, bellísimo, hermana. I'm proud of what I've seen, what I've been seeing so far. When we start, I gotta talk about bomba because bomba is Puerto Rico's eldest indigenous music that is still alive. So that's not to say that there was no music before the Africans came. Our native Taino Indians had music. They even had drums. These drums had no skin on them because we do not have any endemic large mammals. So there was no way to make drums with membranes. So these drums were hollowed out trunks, you know, like tree trunks. When the Africans came or were brought and as enslaved humans, obviously they brought all their knowledge, all their creativity, and they were forced to work hard labor. A lot of it had to do with unloading products from these ships, right? So when the colonizers were here, they needed to eat meat, cheese, milk, stuff that they were used to that wasn't part of the staple food of the Caribbean islands, right? So they had to import all this stuff. Most of this stuff that was imported, you know, for human consumption came in wooden barrels. You know, there was no fridge, so it came with wooden barrels. The Africans would unload these barrels, you know, empty the contents, and all of a sudden they look at this thing and they're like, whoa, I'm gonna reuse and recycle this thing. So that is a testament to the creativity and ingenuity of our African ancestors of saying, oh, you know, this is perfect material to make a drum, right? So because there were no large mammals in the Caribbean, when these ships started bringing in animals for consumption, they needed an animal that would give them meat, that would give them leather, you know, skin, that would give them milk to produce their cheese, their, you know, butter stuff. So these ships that came were not that big. You know, they're full of rather huge manpower of people, you know, pulling ropes, you know, everything. There were no buttons, no GPS, you know. So everything, you know, there was a lot of jobs. So it's a small ship full of people. Plus, you have human cargo on the bottom. You have to feed all these people. So if you're gonna bring animals, you're not gonna bring a cow. You know, that wouldn't fit in those ships. So the first animals that were introduced were smaller mammals like goat, right? So you get to sacrifice a goat, and I say the word sacrifice and not kill. Sacrifice a goat. From that goat, they would use the entire goat, everything, you know, all the meat, and then the skin. They will be like, oh, wait a minute. I got this barrel, I got this skin, I'm gonna make a drum. So still to this day, we are using a goat skin in our bambula drums or bomba drums. Very important aspect is that this music, or I rather not call it a music, this tradition, because like Sister Marisol said, it's a tradition of community. What bomba does is actually create community. You know, it's not just making music, because there's music, there's the dance, there's the singing, there's the people who make the dresses, there's the people who write the stories or the songs. Plus, is that place where we go to do bomba is the place where we go to get help or give help, you know. So this tradition was created 500 years ago by our enslaved ancestors, right? The mere fact that we are still doing it today, 500 years later, is a total act of resistance. It's a complete act of resistance. As a matter of fact, in bomba, in the tradition, one of the dances of bomba, because bomba used to have many dances, the dance that survived the passage of time is called the piquete. In the piquete is a one person at a time dance. I'll explain it a little bit, but this, I gotta tell you, is very beautiful. So when we're doing the bomba, you know, you have the drums on one side, or the musicians, and then there's a circle that is called el batey. Batey is a Taino Indian word, which again speaks about the respect that our African ancestors had for the native Taino Indians. They could have put an African name on that thing, but they didn't. They respected our ancestors, our indigenous people, and adopted the word batey. So when you're in the batey, you know, drums are playing, singer, dancing, everybody's dancing in place. A soul dancer is gonna come into and do like a promenade, right? Then it's gonna salute the lead drum. And from that point on, there is a communication of oneness. It's not a challenge, it's a communication, a dialogue, where every sudden move that I do, the lead drum is gonna interpret. But before we get there, the first position that a dancer does is this. This is the first position of a bomba dancer. Now I tell you, who stands like this? Anybody? Who stands like this? You know, when I look at superheroes, stand like this. My mom, mira muchachito, you know, your abuela, mira nene. So it's a stance of power. Now imagine yourself being an enslaved African, being a slave and standing like this in front of the Lord. This is powerful, people. This is resistance to the very core. In the batey, they were free. When we're in the batey, we are free. So yes, the drum definitely is more than a drum. It's actually a vehicle for connection with the ancestors. You know, with the ancestors and with your community. So it's not just a drum, it's a living entity. It used to be a tree, it used to be a goat. There's a living energy in it. Every time I hit my drum, every time Maria Isa hits her drum, every time Marisol plays her maraca and they hit the drum, we are actually connecting ourselves between each other, but mostly we're connecting to our African ancestors. So we're going back. So I'm talking about bomba, but bomba is Puerto Rico's style of bambula. So bambula is the genre. And bambula, what it does is the one thing that unites the entire Afro diasporic community in the Americas. So we call it bomba, Guadalupe they call it guoca, in Martinique they call it belé, in Punta they call it, in Honduras they call it punta, in Jamaica they call it cumina, I can just go on, bullerengue in Colombia, it's all the same. That's what unites us, because we are really one. You know, it's the colonizers and all this system that is always trying to divide us. So when I look at my screen, what I see is the opposite. I see unity. I see all colors. I see all shapes, all kinds of hair. It's beautiful, and that is bambula. Yes. I can keep going, but I'm gonna give other people the spot.
I'd love if Marisol could talk to us more about the music and dances and its fundamental expressions that allowed the slaves to maintain their love for life, such as salsa, that we might say it's Latin, but we forget to add the first word, Afro Latin.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, I agree with Beto, the bambula, and this is what unites us. You know, sometimes when you come to live in the U.S. mainland, then you are faced with the reality that here, what you hear is a lot of classifications or boxes that they want you to be part of. So when I came from Puerto Rico, they were asking me, so where are you? And I was like, well, I'm Puerto Rican, I'm Boricua, I don't know. And people will say, oh no, but you're negra because you're African American, because I looked African American and I had a bit like, you know, a browner skin and everything coming from the Caribbean. And as soon as I will open my mouth, because I was learning English, they will be confused. What? Are you negra or are you Latina? Are you negra? Are you Latina? Right? And with this particular part of the world, the United States, we have a huge challenge, and that is that we want to put people in boxes, and that makes it difficult. Sometimes we found ourselves fighting with other ethnic groups because of whatever, you know, and that, like Beto was saying, divides us. So when we talk about the music and the contributions of Africans and the African heritage and what we got from in all of these parts, in all these countries around Latin America, we have this, you know, this herencia that really brings us together. Even if you're more clarito or you're lighter skin or it doesn't matter. It does not matter. Who defines you is you. If you feel like you have Afro roots and blood, you claim it. There's no need to say, I'm just one thing. I tell my kids all the time, you know, what do you have to, you don't have to choose anymore. Guess what? It's 2020. You don't have to choose. Guess what? You are Puerto Rican and you can claim that you Boricua and be proud of that. You are from Nigeria and you need to be proud of that. And you are from Minnesota and you have to be proud of that too. You don't have to choose. You can say who you are, how you identify yourself. So we have to just go from this thought of we really have something that can unite us. And it doesn't have to define or divide us. So when you bring people together using music, and that's one of the beautiful things that we got from our African ancestors, and the people that are continuing to honor this music and this tradition through generations. And now we see that what Beto was describing, the bomba and other rhythms in Latin America continue and they are alive. And yet you have new people or younger people doing and using that and fusing those rhythms with new ways of expressing who they are. And you heard Maria Isa at the beginning beautifully say, doing that, composing and really using that African ancestry and make it her own and creating something that comes from that, but is fused with other stuff, with other rhythms, with other, with her own, to make it part of the reality and the experience that we are all part of right now. So I just wanted to remind you all that, you know, when we talk about the music that Afro-Latinos bring to as part of our experience in this diaspora, we have to think that we are connected through this experience with the people that are still back in our countries, or the people that are living in our in countries of origin. We are connected, even when we live miles and miles away, through this experience of Bumbula. So I just want you to know that it is part of what we do. I was just listening and listening to one person that was talking about it, and they were saying that in the United States, you know, the complexity of Afro-Latinos, usually you think only about people that have African ancestry and Latino ancestry, right? And they identify as Afro-Latinos, but it's more complex than that. It is about where you come from. It's about what your family is like, and how you're connected to Africa, and how you're connected to the Latino roots. And the history that we as a community share is a repeated history of colonialism and slavery and pain and resilience and strength that keeps us moving and keeps us not only celebrating. I was rejoicing what Beto was talking about, the standing of that dancer, right? It's just amazing to think that in the middle of everything that our ancestors were going in all parts of Latin America, they have similar positions to start their dances, similar positions to represent who they are. And in that day that they had the opportunity to get together in a batey and really be themselves and be free, they used to come with pride and say, this is who I am. I'm not my circumstances. This is who I am. And I'm introducing myself to you with power and with strength. And that's what we have to remember. A couple of things that we have in the United States, right now, 130 million people of African descent, or they identify as African descent, live in Latin America. In the United States, we have a quarter of our Latinos or Latinx people, Hispanic people, identifying themselves as Afro descendant in the United States. And we have something that we have to also recognize. This is all beautiful, but we have had some challenges along the way. And when we experience, some of us that live in the US mainland, we know that we are also faced with systemic racism. We also are faced with colorism, that somebody with lighter skin will be treated better than the one that has darker skin, and and things like that. And we have people that really are anti-Black, and so they are really showing what they feel about and have actions of injustice against people. Maria Isa was talking about that just in her son. So we just have to think about, what does it mean to be Afro-Latino? It's an identity that brings those two heritage, but also it's an identity that brings a lot of it within. It's not about music, it's about movement, it's about comida, it's about who we are and how we socialize and how we interact and how we create that space to be community and to support each other. And so that's part of what we are as Afro-Latinos. And when I think about Afro-Latinos, and I will just finish my part with this one, is that I think about those that are part of this heritage and right now are representing the Afro-Latinidad in the United States from many places in Latin America. So my hats and I honor Maria Isa and I honor Beto, but I also think about someone like Maria Robinson, a local youth that is an artist. She's a visual artist doing amazing art through the Twin Cities area, representing her Afro ancestry. I think about Elizabeth Acevedo, who is a spoken word artist, and she has one of those, parts or pieces that is about Afro-Latina, what is to be Afro-Latina. She talks about the sancocho and how the sancocho brings all of these elements who you are to become this amazing Afro-Latina. And I also think about those that have suffered, that have been here before, that has started this work and fought for us to be able to say what we're saying right now. So I honor the people in Puerto Rico, Samuel Lin, Maestro Tico Fuentes, Maestro Tito Matos, Marien Torres Lopez, Jamie in Mayagüez. And I also want to say that others that were in New York, that went through New York or other parts of the United States mainland, that have written books that can really define not only the term, but the experience of Afro-Latinos and their many, many, many contributions to the United States and to the entire world.
Thank you so much, Marisol, for explaining us why it's so important that here in Minnesota we have organizations, how to get involved to keep in touch with those roots that here in Minnesota we barely talk about it. Now, Beto, could you please explain us about the music and dance are both highly honored aspects of the Latino culture. We already know that. We owe it to our African roots for having such rhythms. Why do you think is that our music and dance industry, as of today, lack of Afro-Latino representation. And why do you think this is happening? Or this is not happening? Like, we need to have more representation.
Well, it's interesting because, contemporary pop music is highly African. Rock is African. Rock and roll is not a white people music. Rock and roll is African, just so you know. Tango in Argentina is not white people dance. No. White people don't dance like that. It's an African dance. What is the roots of modern pop music? It all comes from Jamaica, people. Jamaica is definitely an integral part in the development of contemporary music. I mean, reggaeton, that is spread throughout the world and has taken over, is no other thing than Jamaican music sung in Spanish. We really gotta give it up and know where it comes from. So this music that is reggaeton, that is probably the most popular music in the world right now, which is really crazy to all of us, started as a way for Jamaican producers to be able to capture, yes, excellent book, Jamaican producers to capture a broader audience. So there are more Spanish-speaking people in the world than English-speaking people. That is certain. So Jamaicans wanted to get bigger, get to a broader audience. So they looked to the place where they had a lot of communities in Latin America that had Jamaican and ancestry from other islands like St. Vincent and so forth. So we have to talk about Panama. The people that built the Panama Canal were African, of African ancestry, mostly from Jamaica, St. Vincent, the Grenada, and so forth. So when they landed there, they built this canal, they looked at the beautiful Panamanian Caribbean, and they said, I'm staying here. So what stayed behind was a culture, a new culture rooted in Jamaica and St. Vincent, but mixed up with the Panamanian reality. And so Jamaican producers started going there and looking at those guys and, hey, why don't we make these hits that were big hits in Jamaica, but in Spanish with you, Nando Boom, El General, all these cats. Tu pum pum, mami, mami, no me va a matar tu pum pum. The original is Poo Nani Nani Nani. So the original song is in Jamaica that says Poo Nani Nani, which is talking about the female private parts. No. And then when I translate it into Tu Pum Pum Nani Mami, Mami, they said Mami, but in reality it's Poo Nani. Everybody talks about the dembow, right? The dembow. Dembow? Ah, yeah, dembow, el dembow. Dembow is not a rhythm. Dembow is not a rhythm. Dembow is a song by a Jamaican artist called Shabba Ranks. Shabba Ranks. He used a rhythm that is called the Pokemon rhythm. That rhythm is the basis rhythm of most reggaeton, still to this day. That song went, dembow, 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 dembow. You guys know what dembow means? Anybody? No? Dembow means they bow. They bow. It's actually a homophobic song, talking about how males have anal sex between each other, and it was a song that condemned that. Dembow, they bow. So Shabba Ranks became the the most famous Jamaican reggae artist after Bob Marley in the world. But when people found out what he was singing about, they canceled him for a good reason too. So they started to protest all the venues and all the festivals where he was playing, and his career completely disappeared. But his legacy continues to this day with that music. When you go to Sister Island, Dominican Republic, they don't call it reggaeton over there. They call it dembow again. Now they're calling it dembow. So it's important to know where these things come from. I mean, reggaeton, people, it says reggae before the tongue. I mean, we got to give it up to our brothers and sisters from Jamaica, and to our brothers and sisters of all the Caribbean islands and of all Central and South America. So we got to stop doing that division thing. I mean, some speak English, some speak Dutch, some speak French, some speak Creole, some speak Spanish, but we all speak the language of the drum. We all are the same thing. And before I leave you to give space for other people, I gotta say, I'm gonna tell a story so that you see this. A couple of years ago, I used to play in a band called La Quilombera, and we went out to the island of San Bartholomew, St. Bart's, to play on a music festival, Caribbean music festival. So I asked the promoter, hey man, who's playing before us? He told me, it's a traditional group. I'm like, oh, cool. So I go there to see the guys load up their instruments, and the way they start loading up the instruments, they're bringing out these drums, which I recognize because it's the same drum that I use. It's my, drums like look like this, And I see what they're doing. I'm like, oh my God. So after they set up, the guys come down, before they're gonna play, and I go to one of the guys. Hey man, where you guys from? And the guy goes like he doesn't understand English. I'm like, all right. Spanish. I don't speak French. I don't speak Creole. So I'm like, how do I communicate with this man? So I know. I went to my phone, looked for a photo of my drum, and went like this. Dun, 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 dun. The guy opened up the eyes and hugged me. From that point on, we were brothers. We never were able to speak, but after the show, we spent like 2 hours playing together. It was amazing. It was amazing. So again, it's the language of the drum. It's that language that, Bambula itself, Bambula means the people of the drum, but it also means to remember. So when you remember, you connect. When you connect, you create a community. You create a place for apoyo, for, to hold each other. When I'm having a rough day, I go to the bomba to get healed. When I'm having a great day, I go to the bomba to heal somebody. So that's the importance of Bambula. And yes, the question was, why isn't there more presence? There is a plenty of presence in the music. Maybe the performers, not that much. And it's for obvious reasons. I mean, you as a presenter, I'm sure with your curly hair and with your accent have had more difficulties than if somebody with straight hair, blonde hair, or whatever goes to have the same job. They'll probably get your job before you do because of your curly hair. That's a fact. If I go with my blue eyes, I have a better chance than my brother Coco Ares, for example. You know what I mean? Because he's got black skin. That is a fact. So in the world of commercial music, it has that preface, commercial. So what is commercial? So we gotta change that narrative. What is commercial? You know what? We gotta definitely change the entire narrative. Like Marisol was talking before about that division about, hey, are you Black? Are you Latino? Are you Hispanic? Are you Caribbean? What the hell are you? I'm all that and more. Yes. Cool.
Yeah, I just want to say buenísimo, Beto, buenísimo. I just have to say that in Spanish. Buenísimo. Y espero que la gente que nos está acompañando también tenga comentarios, preguntas, porque realmente esto debe ser una conversación de todos. I just said, Beto, thank you so much. This is really great. And I'm grateful to you. And I hope that people that are part of this conversation can also join us in having comments and questions about it. I just want to say one thing that it makes me, I just really have to say that sometimes we talk about history and talk about the Bambula and talk about what's happening in Latin America. And we think, oh, that was the past, right? That's good. You know, some people are just recognizing that, honoring that, and I just go and see them perform. But really, this can be an experience that all of us can be part of here in Minnesota. So we have our group, which is Boriquen, the Boriquen Culture Center. And we provide those opportunities before in person, now virtually, and hopefully we'll go back to in person to go back to parks and just do fiestas and whatever it is that we can bring the barriles and the panderetas de plena and do our thing. But also we have local artists that are representing not only Puerto Rico, but also other parts of Latin America and the Afro Latinidad here in the Twin Cities and in Minnesota. So I want to give a shout out to our brothers and sisters from the Afro-Peruvian groups that we have performing and doing amazing work here in Minnesota. Afro-Colombianos, Afro-Ecuatorianos, hasta un grupo mexicano que está rescatando. They're really trying to bring that root in Mexico. In 2015, Mexico for the first time had people being able to identify as Blacks, and they did, you know, they did, a lot of them did. So we have a lot of groups locally in Minnesota, and I'm sure that wherever you are listening from, I will encourage you to connect with those groups, to go to the Bambula and just be part of this experience and go dance. You don't have to be an expert. Just go and feel the rhythm of the drum, the beat of the drum, and just experience it. You don't have to wait much longer. And I just want to honor those that are doing the work here in the Twin Cities area. And I want to say thank you to all of you, Boricuas and others, who continue to represent, honor, and share our ancestry, our Afro-Latinx ancestry with the entire community that we're part of.
Can I expand? I want to expand on something that Marisol said, being that Fernanda and Irma are both from Mexico. I'm sure there's other people from Mexico. The first settlement of freed Africans in the Americas was in Mexico. In 1609, a slave called Yanga, Y-A-N-G-A, Yanga, so I'm gonna write it, Yanga. A slave called Yanga rebelled against the Spanish crown. And his rebellion was so strong that the Spanish crown actually gave him the freedom. And he was so strong with it that they actually not only gave him freedom, they gave him land in Córdoba, Veracruz. So the first African settlement of free Africans in America is called San Lorenzo de los Negros in Córdoba, Valencia. So yes, people don't think about the African experience of Mexico, but yes, Oaxaca, you know, Veracruz, you know, is there. So we gotta really go back and rewrite history, because our history has not been told. everybody, when the tragic events of George Floyd's murder ignited that huge fire that was already lit but needed some, everybody was talking about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Everybody's talking about him. Why can't you do like, yes, mad respect to the man, forever and ever. But there wouldn't be a Martin Luther King Jr. or a Malcolm X or a Rosa Parks or any of that without Arturo Alfonso Schomburg, the father of the Harlem Renaissance and the father of African history in America. A man from Santurce, Puerto Rico, that nobody in Puerto Rico knows about. Yet in New York City, he has this library because he wasn't only erudito on the subject, he didn't just know a lot about the subject of Africanness. He was a collector of documents, of during the slave trade, of art, of everything that had to do with the African experience. And today you have the Arturo Alfonso Schomburg Center for African Studies in Harlem. A very, very important human being in the development of, and known as the father of African heritage in the Americas. So again, when I went to school here in Puerto Rico, nobody ever talked to me about this man. Yet they told me about George Washington, who had slaves, who was a racist. They told me about all these people as heroes. Christopher Columbus as a hero. Are you crazy? Christopher Columbus is a pirate. Christopher Columbus was a pirate. He was no hero. And he was not the first one to come here. America already had, Africans, Phoenicians, Asians, and they respected and they traded with the locals. Christopher Columbus was not even Spanish, people.
He was a thief.
Yes.
And like I mentioned at the beginning, like this is the stuff that schools doesn't teach. Schools teach what other countries made or discover, but we really need to rewrite history, like you mentioned, in order to all of our communities recognize and embrace the good things that Africa has put such a huge influence in our people, in our history, and even in our music.
Yes.
Like, what other advice could you give us to our communities and to our organizations? Because we need to do something besides just speaking in this panel. Like, what can we do in order to make things work on?
I would like to ask a question before we move on. Can we or not?
Oh, Clement, we're going to open it up to questions very shortly, right after this. Yes. And then also I wanted to mention, Maria Isa, if you also want to jump in to this last question that we're going to talk. So you can
I think you're a great person to answer that, Maria Isa.
Yeah.
Or not.
María Isa, lo que te prepara.
Dale.
¿Puedo decir algo rapidito? Mira, a mí lo que se me viene a la mente es lo que siempre decimos en nuestras clases. This is what we always share in our classes, in our gatherings, in everything. One is be proud of who you are. Recognize the internalized racism that you're a victim of. Sometimes all these ideas, all of these things comes in and just get into you. And then if you don't recognize that, you cannot change your mind, you cannot change your actions, you cannot change your organizations, right? And your community. So recognize what's happening for you. What are you thinking that is against what you know now is not true? And 3, for me, is very important. Black is beautiful. there was a controversy between this term of negrita, negrito, and I understand now the context of the United States and how another word with N was used to really damage and really hurt people. I understand that a little bit. I'm learning more about it because the community also uses it in other ways, right? And that is their right, and they use it the way they feel like it. But in Puerto Rico, at least in Puerto Rico, maybe in other parts of Latin America, when you call somebody negrita, when you call somebody negra, it's something that is coming from your heart. It's somebody that you really appreciate. So I want to challenge that we cannot use that term of negrita negra, because I'm telling my kids, my girls, you need to be proud of who you are, and you are negra, and just be proud of that, and tell people I'm a negra, and so what? Yes. Right? And so I want you to all think about what we have in our minds, what we get. We need to challenge that and start changing our minds and our actions to demonstrate that we are really trying to change what we know now is not true. Maria.
I'm glad you mentioned that, Marisol, que it's a term of endearment. I come, you know, and it's about education. Sure. And recognizing your privileges that you don't have and someone else has, or even, you know, growing up, I was born in Minnesota. We talk about self-identifying. We get to claim who we are. I claimed Puerto Rican because at the way that our drums migrated here blended just as much as the drums from Africa to Borinquen, you know, and with the Anishinaabe and the Dakota, and, you know, it's about connecting our voices, like you also said, Beto, with the communication and the power of the drum. They are our oldest weapons of peace through resistance. They are the soundtrack to our gritos that are continuing now. You know, when we look at this uprising that has happened now, the lens is focused here in Minnesota, or even our own community in this expression of Latinidad. Is like, we have to have a conversation. Well, those are the medicines that come out of the poison. Because it's my abuela used to say it, you know, tiene que romper la taza llena de agua para que la gente sepan que se van a perder la agua. You know, the glass has to break in order for people to recognize, like, oh my gosh, we have been taking this for granted. You know, we have to document our history. Yeah, it's not even rewriting, because our history, we know our history. It has to be sponsored. It has to be produced. We've been doing it through oral traditions and through the sounds of our music, which is one of our largest influences, right? Because it's what keeps us alive. It's our medicina. Being a Boricua, very proud, orgullosa, and recognizing also the privileges of what's light skin privilege, what's dark skin privilege, y tu abuela donde está, you know, like all of those symbolisms have been what we heard. I remember the internalized racism within our own communities that we face. And I have a prima who has green eyes and blonde hair, and I have another prima who is negrita con el pelo rizo, and we would go to school and we have, you know, the same last name of Vega, and they would say, you guys, oh, are you adopted by your grandmother? And we would be insulted because that was never really we never even heard of that before until we came into a school system that put us into these boxes. The challenges is about education. We can't be out here discussing defunding, you know, the police without yelling and playing our drums loud to make sure that these educational resources, like the expansion of Borinquen Center, like the Africaribes, like the Escuela de los Ayala, like our main sources of recognizing who we are is how we survive. You know, the challenges are, if my mother used to say this, I have to quote her because I'm blessed. Like, I may not have come from a white privilege of a Minnesota suburban lifestyle or even in the city, but I do have the privilege of my ancestors' history being taught by my family. And that is worth more than any dollar bill I could ever hold on to, because it is what has kept us parallel in a system that's trying to knock us out. We can't beat it we can't beat a system without beating it at its own game. And Mami siempre dice, you know, when you forget who you are and where you come from, forget even the word descendant, you become enslaved. And this country, specifically of the United States, has spent so much of their power and greed to ensure that that our kids lose focus of who we are. It doesn't matter if you're from Puerto Rico, Panama, Guatemala, our stories are connected. Anishinaabe, Lakota, Dakota, we come from a braid. It's time for us to teach our children, Somalia, Ethiopia. I mean, we have so many bomberos of different cultures since I was growing up in it. They recognize the power of the drum and recognize that our history is all tied together. Just like ese barril de bomba que viene que trae arroz de China hasta Puerto Rico, hasta, you know, maní, all of these symbolisms have to be enforced and taught and not separated. You know, the indigenous community, we see this in our own Blacks, the separations amongst our own Latinidad to the indigenous, to even our Black community. My husband is Black. When he went to Puerto Rico the first time, he went on a hip hop tour to see only Condado and Isla Verde. And he's like, I was miserable. It was like Wendy's and Burger King, you know? But then when he came with me to Loíza, he cried. And he said, why don't they teach us this? You know, why? This woman is my mother, is my grandmother. She's just as Black, and wow, like, it's so important. That's the awakening of power and recognizing our history, our herstory. So we have to enforce that education. And since we're now having these new tools of virtual discussions and our children are going to be taught virtually now, these are platforms that we can take advantage of this poison of a pandemic to create medicine of healing in being the teachers within our own homes. Revolution starts at home. So, yes.
Revolution and education. I would like to leave some time for the questions that some of the audience may have for our panelists. If Camila or Irma would make the honor of reading them, please.
Yeah, so I saw that Clement had raised her hand. You can write your question and we can read it off.
Pero necesito platicar porque hace mucho tiempo, cuando era niña, hablaba mucho cada día. Pero
No se escucha muy bien. Si quieren hacer sus preguntas por el comment, la caja de comments, para que nosotros podamos leerlas y dárselas a Fernanda para que las pregunte en el panel.
Bueno, yo la voy a decir de una vez porque me pasé escribiéndola y me quedó como muy larga. Entonces la voy a hacer rapidito. Y eso lo tocó un poquito ahora María, pero quería preguntar, nosotros tenemos unas divisiones internas, los latinos, que son inclusive más fuertes de lo que otra gente nos ve. Y yo quería que comentaran un poquito. Sorry, I forgot. I did the question in Spanish. I didn't know. But anyway, I'm gonna finish. Porque a veces nos sentimos más oprimidos por nuestros propios latinos que piensan que porque somos afro-latinos tenemos como menos, somos menos. Entonces no es solo estamos oprimidos por la clase americana blanca, sino que también nuestros propios latinos nos oprimen, muchos de ellos, cuando tienen piel más clara y que por supuesto vienen con más dinero y más opciones. That's all.
Marisol, are you gonna?
Yo just want to say that, gracias por decir eso. Eso es una experiencia que tenemos muchos. Gracias por decirlo. Como decía Beto ahorita, eso es un hecho. This is a fact. Thank you for sharing that comment with us. Like Beto was saying earlier, that this is a fact, and this is my experience too, and the experience of many who are part of this conversation. I really thank you for that comment. And I will just remind what all of us, what Maria Isa was saying and what I was, and others are sharing. You know, we have to intentionally talk about this and really help each other with conversations, with education, with opportunities to experience with others who are part of the Afro-Latino, you know, identity, to really make sure that we unite and we are really working together to dismantle all of those things that we know are not right.
So Clement, what you're saying is just like, you know, I'm just repeating that is truth, but it's not only truth in the diaspora there in the United States. It's true here in Puerto Rico. Here in Puerto Rico, that subject of racism has been raised again, because there was this notion that there's no racism in Puerto Rico. I gotta say something about that, and I'm gonna be blunt. That is bullshit. There is plenty of racism in Puerto Rico, it's obvious. My wife is a black Puerto Rican born out of Dominican parents. So she received racism for being black and for being Dominican, which is crazy. I mean, Dominican, Cuban, Jamaican, Guadalupe, we're all the same people. We're exactly the same thing. So it's very interesting that that question has been raised again in Puerto Rico, and it's gone to major to the forefront of the discussion right now, because there is definitely a systematic racism from all media, you know, newspapers, the news, you know, magazines, all of that. I would love to speak about this very powerful sister called Glorianne Sacha Antonetti. She's a black Puerto Rican, and she encountered that she could never see any images in magazines, in women's magazines, local magazines, you know, Puerto Rican magazines, of African or Afro-Puerto Rican beauty. So she decided to make this magazine. It's called Revista Étnica. So check it out, Revista Étnica, right there, Camila, so people can check it out. It's a very beautiful thing, but she not only does that, she does a lot of other amazing things. But to sort of answer your question, yes, obviously that is going to happen in the United States, being that the United States is probably one of the most racist countries in the world. But here in Puerto Rico, we do suffer from that racism too, which is crazy, you know, being that Puerto Rico is in the heart of the Caribbean, and the Caribbean is the extension of Africa. We have to have that really present. The Caribbean is the extension of Africa. And when I'm talking about the Caribbean, I'm not just talking about the Antilles and the islands. I'm talking about Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. I'm talking about, you know, all that coast, Caribbean coast of Panama and Central, South America, you know, Belize, you know, French Guiana, all those things. And very important, something that I haven't mentioned yet, because maybe it gets a little off the subject a tiny bit, you know, because of the Latino experience, but it is, I think. We have to talk about Haiti. We have to talk about Haiti. Haiti is our hero. Haiti was the first free nation in America after the United States of America, and definitely the first free black nation in America. the reason why they are still suffering is because of that. Because everybody, even the people that share the same island, put their back to them. But those are our heroes. Without them, you know, we owe too much to Haiti, to Saint Overture, and the French Revolution. Bomba wouldn't exist without Haiti. Bomba came from Haiti, through Mayagüez, through the West, you know? And again, just as the word bate was something that our Africans adopted and used out of respect to our Taino Indians in Haiti, Toussaint could have put an African name to his nation, but he didn't. He respected the original indigenous name of the Tainos and kept it. So our African ancestors were not only super creative and talented, but also super respectful. Yes. Oh, they're telling me I'm speaking a lot.
No. I would. Now it's time for us to, unfortunately, close this forum, because I say unfortunately because there's still a lot more information to talk about. But I want to do so by inviting everyone to embrace and respect our African roots in our Latin American communities, especially the joy and the unity Africa has brought to our to our communities, not just through music, but with everything. Follow the organizations we put in the chat. Also, we're gonna put the handles of everyone's participating in this forum, so you guys can follow us and still ask more questions. Also, we gotta be part of organizations, so we keep alive our stories, and more importantly, our history. Thanks everyone for being here. Like always, such a pleasure for me. Thanks Latino Lead for the invitation, and hopefully everyone had a great day.
Ache.
Ache, mucho ache.
Gracias.